We also have different models. They build, own, and operate, like you have with Dangote Refinery. And then, of course, the universities and research institutes with the industry enabled by government with funding support. But not many of us that there are tax incentives for those who are into R&D. In Cadbury, we realized that we were very vibrant at that time, only because we knew that whatever was government, the company was, whatever money they released for research was going to be taken out of the corporate tax as part of the policy at that time. So some of these incentives are there, which some of us may not be aware of. Next slide. Let's look at some specific models, and we can't talk too much about this, but we're all aware of the Olam Agric and the Lagos State Partnership. I thought this is worth looking at. The staple crop processing zones, which is the way we are going to have to deal if we are going to change the narrative in this landscape. We are going to have to look at that. And there are a number of other projects that I've actually shown. But one of the things that you will notice is the fact that many of the PPP arrangements that we have right now are actually donor-driven. So we need to change the paradigm and let these, because we cannot continue to be donor-driven. We need to move to government actually enabling so that it can be sustainable. Next slide. Now, what examples can we look at as local success stories? I've mentioned this, but let's look at the Lagos State Rice Mill partnership with Kebbi farmers. Let's look at a number of other examples that you will see here. Essentially, when we were starting fortification in Nigeria, the flour mill members that between February 2020, February 2000, when the launch of the fortification program was actually done, and September 2002, what stopped us from implementing? The industry was looking for incentives, which was finally agreed, especially on the platform of the Flour Milling Association of Nigeria, and that was what set the whole thing to actually take off in September 2002. Next slide, please. So what are the lessons that you can that we can see? For many of us, dairy industry, the whole, when government makes a production of milk at every doorstep, how does it happen? We can learn a lesson. Look at the Asian tigers. Look at the Singapore and Hong Kong, what they have done with their logistics and port infrastructure. We need to be able to take lessons from some of those areas and use to actually develop. Look at the palm oil. We're looking at the palm oil example in Malaysia. How did they come? What did they do to actually change the narrative in Malaysia? Next slide. Now, so as I mentioned, we've already started the process. We need to go to the point, for example, of contextualizing codex standards in Nigeria to align with local food systems and capacities while still maintaining global compliance. That is a gap that we have to unlock, and I hope we'll talk about this. Then we need to digitize and standardize licensing and inspection procedures, because that also takes NAFDAC or all the other agencies to the next level. Next slide. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but like I said, I want us to actually begin to look at what for actually facilitating partnership, cooperations, and collaborations. For example, I keep on using this example that Nigeria is the world's largest of cassava, but we are not on the starch map, and we think that it's only by large-scale factories for starch that we are going to actually be on the world starch map. No, we can actually have a model of small, looking at that kind of catalyzation by the government. We can actually have small factories that are set up to produce cassava starch, and that can be aggregated to move. Next slide. So PPPs are catalysts for regional and regional and global market access. We need to look at our food safety bill. Some of the very interesting ideas that are in that bill, they have been stalled for a long time. We need to look at what we need to do to actually get the benefit of that, especially in the international trade. And the issue of logistics, cold chain, and transport infrastructure is going to be extremely key for us to develop the food processing sector in that partnership. Next slide, please. So, rounding up, building trust and accountability is going to be very important. We must learn from the experiences of those that have succeeded. Those projects that are not even in the processing sector that have succeeded will teach us one or two things about what we need to do to get it done. And we need to reward integrity and compliance to partners that meet. But at the end of the day, we are looking at government actually enabling and setting up some of these things. I think I like what TechnoServe and some companies are already doing with the micronutrient fortification index to actually promote that culture of transparency. Thank you. Next slide. So what's the roadmap that we need to look at? We need to strengthen our value chains. We need to modernize our infrastructure. We need to develop hubs for agro-processing. And frankly, these are not new things. They are things that we have spoken about at different fora. And I want us to please understand that we need to now begin to put everything together to be able to go to the next step. Next slide. Next slide. Yes, sorry, please, just a second. I have already mentioned the issue of tax deductible R&D expenses. We need to look at whether that's something that we have exploited, whether as entrepreneurs or whether as at the level of collaboration with government. And then those institutions that we can make use of for supporting research on tropical crops. Next slide, please. The small is beautiful concept is one thing that will drive this. Unless we focus on the small is beautiful concept. This is a Schumacher concept from 1974. But this is what many of the Asian tigers have adopted and is helping them. But in our case, we keep on looking at big projects. That's not the way of the future to us to actually make a move. Next slide, please. Then there is the presidential ease of doing business initiative, which actually is targeting so many of the agencies to actually ensure that they can undertake reforms that will catalyze the entire landscape. These are things we need to look at. Then, of course, there is the African Food Free Continental Trade Agreement that has yet to be fully integrated. We need to look at that. Next slide. So what are the opportunities for collaboration? We need to look at areas of infrastructure, especially the cold chain areas, because we know that some developments have taken place in this area in the last decade, let's say, but we are still very far from what we need to do. What organizations like Otakwa that are actually promoting cold chain infrastructure development, they need encouragement. Financing, we need technology development, and I'm happy that young people are actually taking an interest in AI and all of that. And then the market linkages. We need to be able to link farmers to processors. I'm very proud today of the contributions we made when I was in Cadbury in actually organizing the commodity supply chain for sorghum and maize in Zaria, in Kaduna axis. That's what has sustained the industry till today. Next slide. So what is the call to action? Whether as government, development partners, private sector, academia, I'm saying that together we can build a competitive and sustainable industry for local and global markets. But we need to change the paradigm. And changing the paradigm, we need to change from a seeming reliance on donor-driven donor-driven development. Thank you very much.
Please, let's give him another round of applause for this engaging and informative presentation. We are starting with the panelists. And we're going to start with the CEO of Monster Energy Nigerian Limited, Mr. Chiazo. And the question is going in this way. Having been in the industry, we want to know the regulatory bottlenecks that hindered private companies or industries participation in Nigeria and how they can be addressed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, participants. Let me start again by fully introducing myself for the benefit of those that may not know. And the reason is because of the question that has been asked, so that you can know why I'm privileged to be standing here to answer that question. Again, my name is Fred Chiazo. I am currently the chairman Technical Committee for the Food and Beverage Association for the country, the AFBT. I chair that group. I'm also a council member of MAN, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, where I'm also the vice chair for the food and beverage sector for MAN. I am also the lead for the Fruit Juice Association in MAN. I'm equally the chairman of the National Fortification Alliance for this country. So when you talk about food fortification, I chair that body, and I'm going to talk about all that. I can go on and on, but let me stop at that for time. But I just want to talk around these answers. Now, when we talk about private PPP, public-private partnerships, this is very key. We currently have that going, and I'm glad with the presentation from Professor Gumoila, which focused a lot more on industry and direct government working together in ensuring, success in those areas. But I will talk differently on another angle, then go back to that. And then because we're talking about the limitations, that's my question, to answer what are our limitations. I will say the other side of it too, just an addition. Currently, we have a lot of this happening. For example, I talked about National Food Fortification Alliance, NFA. It's a public-private partnership organization where we have government. I lead that body. NAFDAC is my secretariat. SON is my vice chair. We work together, to ensure that food fortification in this country is addressed. So that's a very big body where we have this PPP operating. And this body has over 100 membership. And in this body, we have development partners, we have NGOs, we have industry partners. Ministry of Health is part of it, Ministry of Environment, all the ministry bodies are all part of it. So these are some of the things we discuss. We should be having our meeting soon in November, this November, in a couple of weeks, where we would have about 100 participants attend that meeting, where we discuss how we can manage food fortification issues in this country. There's also the National Food Safety Management Committee, which I'm glad Professor Gumoila talked about too. You have me co-chairing with the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health and Industry co-chair it. You can see the private sector partnership with government there too. And we're looking out for the food safety issues regarding this country in that body. It's existing and we're working towards that. The idea is to make sure that industry is not shortchanged or forced to implement things that are not implementable, but also to co-partner with government and ensure that the public issues are addressed in that regards. Then I could go on and on. But now, let me quickly go into why I'm standing here. I know I wanted to give like a synopsis of what PPP we do currently, you know. What are the limitations? What are the issues? I started with this synopsis because I go through limitations, I go through issues. One of the key issues, and I'm glad Prof talked around it, is where we have multiplicity of regulatory bodies, you know, upon the industry. Today, we know three major bodies: NAFDAC, SON, FCCPC. Of course, there's NESRIA too. Let's put that as 4. Each one has their act today. And most times, these acts are crisscrossing. NAFDAC is to regulate food. SON wants to regulate food. FCCPC wants to regulate food. How are we going to succeed in the industry? Where are we heading to? It becomes a stress. I can tell you, in my over 35 years, don't look at my face. I know I look very young. Don't worry, I know. In my over 35 years working in the food and beverage, I've been managing this thing because I have been leading the industry for, in this over 35 years, about 20 years of it. In under these 20 years, this has been a major issue that gives me sleepless nights, where each time I'm forced to go from one regulatory body to the other in trying to harmonize their regulations and acts. But we all know that acts can only be corrected when they go to the House of Assembly. They're not corrected by, you know. So sometimes, because of this advocacy adventure by myself and my team members, by that I mean those in the technical committee of the Food Beverage Association of Nigeria, Employers of Nigeria, you find out that most of us on the height of these arms so that industry can breathe. I mean, for example, I'll tell you, I didn't come here on Monday. I only came in on Tuesday because I was in Abuja to resolve a problem. And that problem also cost the industry members. I don't want to go into those details, but it was resolved. So it's always that battle. So it's a big issue where we need these arms of government, regulatory bodies, to work together and synergize with one body so that industry is not addressing the three of them, running from helter to skelter. It's not easy. But I tell you that just recently ago, there has been set up a committee now between three of them, for example, NAFDAC, SON, and FCCPC, where they want to set up, do an MOU, and I'm aware of it because council board today, by the grace of God. So I'm on that council, so I know this bit. And in that body, the MOU between these three bodies, I pushed for it, magnanimously helped to push that, and work together to address this problem for the industry. So we stand. So that's on that. There's another part of the PPP I didn't talk about, which is in policy setting. We talk about setting policy for this country. We must have industry along with government, along with NGOs, academia, all working together for policy making of this country. Today, I can tell you again, the good news is, as at yesterday and today, you will see me coming in intermittently. Even when I leave now, I'm going back, I'm on a conference call. We're setting the policy for alcohol for this country today. The validation is today, and I'm part of it, but I had to leave because of this panel. I'm actually in Abuja for that. So that tells you how very often I'm on the move. But because NIFST is it's my, you know, all I'm made of NIFST. I'm just NIFST. I have to be here. This is more important to me. And I think this discussion is very key. And I thought, let me share this with our members. Because a lot of you may not know. Thank you. Because a lot of you may not know what is happening in that space. You may think it's just as easy as it looks. No. There's so much going on undertone that if some of us are not on our foot, the industry will be. That's one. Now, the other arm of what is limiting the industry today in the PPP thing is, can we have one? Hello, for some of us, hello. Another key issue for industry is things to do with safety. I am glad when Professor Ogumola spoke. He talked a lot about, for example, Fan Milk working with the Ogun State. I'm aware session today, working with nations for the success of having this, guess what? Because of the animal husbandry thing, for example, okay, I'm told my minutes, I could talk on and on, but I will try and make it brief. Because of the issues relating to what you call it, the Fulani and what have you, I really don't want to go into those details. You have husbandries closing down because they are not able to survive. Kidnapping, the animals are stolen. This pushing back the effort industry want to do. I know a lot of my members that have closed down their farms in the hinterland because of all this incursion from these bodies affecting them, and it's not working for them. Issue of infrastructure. We all know about infrastructure here. If nobody knows, it's a pity. We're talking about light, generation of light. We're talking about water. Most industries members to do that and still pay taxes, and taxes to different bodies. Remember when I said multiplicity of taxing? Aside from those government bodies I mentioned, there's local government coming for their own. There's state government coming for their own, and all on the industry. These are huge limitations that we need to look into. And we are appealing to government in particular. By that I mean, because we know that there are members of regulatory bodies here, and we know that there are members of the ministries here who are members of NIFST. We are appealing that they take this back and see how they can help industry to continue to support this. I want to stop at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Please, let's give me another round of applause for that engaging and informative insight. Without wasting time, I'll call on the next panelist, Mrs. Eva, the Director of Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, NAFDAC. Please, let's give her a round of applause. But before she comes on board, our question is, how can trust and accountability between government and private actors be enhanced for long-term partnership?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the keynote speaker and Mr. Chiazo, who has just spoken before me. And from Mr. Chiazo's responses, you can see that we have issues of trust and accountability and industry. So I'm going to take it off from there and lay just a little bit of foundation. These are two parts that need to collaborate, very essential that they collaborate and collaborate well. However, we can see that the relationship is strained and marked by issues like maybe low transparency from the side of government, perceived, and I say perceived regulatory hostility. Sometimes say the regulator is acting as the police, limited feedback between government and industry, so perhaps from compliance audits and consultations, and from coordination, which he also between the different bodies because of the mandates and overlaps. And so this is the context we're faced with. And so please hang on to that perceived regulatory hostility. Without mutual trust, most of the, in fact, all of the policies that will be achieved because there needs to be trust and accountability on both sides. So I'll just share some of the mechanisms that we can use to build trust and accountability in a PPP relationship, government on one side and the private sector on the other. So we can look at, for example, institutionalized dialogue platforms. And so this and sustaining, for example, joint regulatory and industry working groups, and a platform to co-create policy. We already have good examples that Mr. Chezo has mentioned. We have a very good example in the National Dark Man consultative platform. So these, for the NFA, we meet twice a year. For the NAFDAC and MAN consultative platform, it should be quarterly, but we are doing well. Another mechanism is a transparency and predictability in regulation. And when I say transparency and predictability, I'm speaking to, for example, publishing inspection protocols and checklists publicly on web agency websites, regulations on the agency's websites, allowing industry to understand what the set timelines are. Because if you don't know what the timelines are, you don't even know when you are being shortchanged. And another one is the in place digital permit platforms. That's in the Nigeria single window platform, trade portal. NAFDAC has an e-registration portal, and what this does is it enables applicants, we say clients, to track and monitor progress. And when you're able to track and monitor the progress that your application is making within a regulatory system, it helps to build trust. It shows you that that regulator is not hiding anything from you. We can also speak to sharing, monitoring, and data systems. So for example, joint compliance platforms, the regulators, even the industry. We can speak also of joint capacity building. And here we're speaking about cross-training programs. And so this will allow us to learn about industry processes and also allow industry to learn about the public health priorities of government. Already mentioned in our keynotes presentation today is recognition. Recognition and incentive systems. Very important, because when companies, industries are complying, recognize even fast-track compliant entities. Another feedback and grievance mechanisms. Yes, we know that in these relationships, we have already identified that. And so it's a good mechanism to build trust and accountability when industry knows that they have a channel, independent channel, where they can complaints about regulatory misconduct or challenges that they are having. That would also build that trust we're talking about. And before issues escalate between government and the industry, it's a good idea to also put in place joint conflict resolution mechanisms. And so this would also enhance this trust that we're speaking about. So essentially, we're looking at transparency in decision making so that there's no asymmetry between what government knows and what the industry knows. Here we're speaking to food processing, that ecosystem, so that we're kind of equal in the knowledge that we have. We're also speaking about consistency in enforcement. When there's consistent enforcement, it shows that there's a level playing field. And so all members of industry are happy field, and that what's good for the goose is also good for the gander. I think that we should begin to, my immediate past panelists, when we begin to see ourselves as partners in public good instead of opponents, and begin to toe that line to work together collaboratively, sharing information, cooperating to achieve a food system that works for all of us. That is when we will have, taking on board all of these mechanisms that anchor on trust and accountability. These are very key ingredients in ensuring that we work collaboratively together and achieve the common good. And I think at the end of the day, the common good is we all want a food system that works for us, a sustainable food system that delivers food that is safe, of good quality, and is nutritious. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for her. For the want of time, the next question goes to Mrs. Julia Ofaya, representative of Coca-Cola. The question goes to us: how can be a driven technology transfer support Nigerian processors in meeting international standards? Please, let's applaud that.
Thank you so much. Yage Otaya. I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. So how PPs support Nigeria processed foods in meeting international standards? So the first thing is making sure that we have access to advanced technologies in processing, packaging, and quality control. So the first thing would be having access to automation and digital traceability systems, specifically for food safety and hygiene. The other thing is on labeling. So for labeling, things like nutrient profiling, labeling, reformulation, and registration processes. When we have systems, they actually help with compliance, right? So you can comply to Codex standards, you can comply to the local standards, ISO, and the other standards that will actually require you to be able to have your goods out there. The other thing is on capacity building. Capacity building is very important, and the speakers who preceded me have spoken about this. For you to be able to meet international standards, having capacity building sessions so that we can be able to transfer the knowledge to the processors is very important so that they can understand the global compliance requirements. And the other thing, continuous improvement systems. So not just being static, but just knowing what to be able to do so that they can continually comply. And thirdly, earlier, but for us to be able to move our processed goods across the borders, harmonization is important. Coming from industry, I have realized it gets difficult when you want to export products outside of the country, especially when you don't have harmonized standards, because standardization is where you get technical barriers to trade. So harmonizing the standards to international benchmarks will actually be able to help out, the processors to be able to move their goods to other parts of the world. The other one is with the alignment of the standards, it will also help in supporting with certification schemes. Because remember, when you're moving your goods across, certification, find that there are different requirements when it comes to certification. So that will also help. Also with ISO supplier verification, which will be beneficial. And finally, innovative ecosystems. And we've seen the private sector is doing this very well together with academia. So where we have innovation hubs, and the private sector can actually partner with the public sector and have innovator hubs where they can co-develop new products. And then they can also transfer knowledge, they can transfer technology, and also adopt best practices from the people already doing this. Thank you so much.
Please, Please, let's applaud her. Another question. The question goes this way. How can PPP be deployed to mobilize finances for small and medium-scale food processors in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I didn't know I had another question, but that's fine. I think it can be deployed through means of organization. For example, MAN. Remember when I started my presentation, I said I'm a council member of MAN. I sit on MAN Council today for the country. And in MAN, I'm sure a lot of us know what MAN is, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. In MAN, we have the small and medium scale producers as members of MAN. So it's big and small. Even if you just have a cottage, you are always welcome to MAN. And I'm aware that through MAN, sitting on the council and discussions that come up, there have been, there's always been some donors or government support, which I'm aware of, indirect support, in providing loans, miniature loans, depending on the category, different loans schemes for bona fide members who are, well registered and participating in MAN activities. Yes, but again, it's not like those loans are just walk in the park, apply and get it. Trust me, I know how even members during meetings complain accessing those loans. What has been the problem in that? There's been problems. Sometimes, like the recent one, I don't is hesitating or taking time to release some of these things, even though it's been agreed from onset. And so we have to push and push. Secondly, there's also a problem of members not being aware of these loans to facilitate or support them. I'm talking about these small and medium scale members. One is so silo-centered, if there's a word like that. I'm producing my small yogurt. I don't want to think, I'm just thinking how that yogurt, the pressure of how to produce. They are not thinking out. My encouragement here for the small and medium scale is, please reach out. There are helps coming in and out. And there are areas you might get this help. But if you just sit in your own small cocoon thinking you can get it right, it may be a problem. So that's what I will stop in so I don't talk so much. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next question goes to Mrs. Eva Edward.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And we have kind of received a signal to round up quickly. So very quickly, and if you cast your mind back to the presentation of Professor Ogumoyela, the examples I'm going to share in there somewhere. So for models, global models that can be adopted or adapted, we have, for example, the integrated food parks or mega food parks, or what you also know as industrial or business parks. And so this is a model where we have a focus, we create a hub, a focused hub, where government partners with private companies and set up processing units, look at supply chains and distribution networks. Government essentially provides land, for example, land, basic infrastructure like roads, power supply, water, and of course incentives, because the task of government is to create an enabling environment where industry can not just survive, but also thrive, scale, and succeed. And on the part of the private sector, they build and operate processing units, maybe warehouses, cold storage, they take care of logistics and the rest. And so this is a partnership that works, and the benefits are you aggregate the smallholders. And to account economies of scale, it attracts anchor investors. And success factors that come in here that are critical for this model is T is provided and private sector comes in with their expertise. They are the ones who know how to run business. And so this is a model that leverages their expertise in that regard. There are several other examples, but I'm just going to speak to private innovation platform. These are research and development. And so this is a model where we have government research institutes, we have private agri-tech companies, as well as universities coming together to co-finance research in areas of common interest. So basically, they'll be looking at maybe piloting, processing technology, looking at training. And when you have this kind of model, you also have to look at governance. How is that going to be achieved? So you look at putting in place a steering committee. And what this does is that it rapidly transfers knowledge. Those who are involved need to take care of their, to make it successful, there needs to be clear delineation of intellectual property, because these are, knowledge-based pieces. So I think I'll just anchor it on those two and allow the next panelists to come forward. Thank you.
I've just been informed that we've run out of time essentially, but I think it will not be fair if we don't spare a moment just to invite Mrs. Julia to kindly, give us some helpful PP initiatives that can help to fund Nigeria's processed food exports. As she comes forward, I just want us to please know that beyond the presentations that we're having, it will be nice if we can actually have real PPP arising from this Congress, that we don't just merely talk to ourselves. First of all, thank you, Professor Gumoela, for saying that you will share your slides with us. It will guide us going forward. And after her presentation, we take a few questions and then we round up. I know that lunch is almost here. Bernard, please, to just round up.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. So what are some of the initiatives that help expand Nigeria's processed food exports? So the first one is infrastructure. The first speaker talked about infrastructure. So access to things like cold chain facilities, you're able to move your goods. Logistics, transport. One of the biggest barriers of, of accessing, technologies is, transport. We cannot be able to drive, for example, from Nigeria to the other country because of many factors. Poor roads, poor rail network. And in fact, Africa has been found to be one of the worst, I would say not well connected, through the railways, through the roads across the country. So that would really help. Of course, establishing export processing zones. When you have export processing zones, you reduce post-harvest losses, because what happens is you take your freshly produced goods, they are quickly processed, and then they are able to be taken to the other countries without losing out on the product shelf life. The other key one, and I'm sure you've heard people talking a lot about it, is about market access and trade facilitation. You've heard a lot about Africa Free Continental Trade Area, ECOWAS. So negotiating trade agreements that actually give favorable tariffs, for exporters, so that they can actually be able to with buyers across the borders, that would actually help. Supporting in export certification. So that's one of the biggest pillars of Africa Free Continental Trade Area. Trying to make sure that the exporters get, support in getting certification, because that's also considered to be a big barrier. And the other one is, of course, export promotion agencies. when you have export promotion agencies, then those actually also help in facilitating such movements. And finally, establishing mediation platforms or market linkages actually support you in connecting you to the right buyer or to the right seller, because at times people don't have access to that. One of the biggest barriers for exports is financing. And so supporting exporters so that they can be able to get, export credit guarantees or getting low interest loans so that they can be able to move their goods across, that would really help. It would also help in unlocking finance because that's usually one of the biggest barriers. And then the other one is on branding. So made in Nigeria products is a big thing. But how have we been able to actualize it across the borders? So ensuring that the branding is backed by quality systems, making sure that your products are quality so that when you're trying to sell it outside, people will actually buy it. So making it a reality within Nigeria, but of course outside of Nigeria. And finally, innovation and product development. That is very important. You have to keep on innovating. If you innovate, then you will be able to grow. So partnering with private sector so that we can be able to innovate would be critical. Remember, international markets, people are looking for fortified products, organic products, gluten-free products. So when you innovate, then you can be able to, be able to access the markets by giving them the right goods. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we put our hands together for our panelists once more? We have questions. Just 3 quick questions. One, anyone on this side? So, go to that professor on that side so we can hear.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Professor Bibiana Igbabu from Joseph Sawo Antaka University, Makude. I want to appreciate all the panelists that have spoken this afternoon. And I have some question or clarification. I want to find out that having heard about this issue of PPP, what is the role on NIFST in ensuring that we have practical PPP and not just theory? I have heard lamentations about industries not having access to government, doing some things for them. But I also see the problem coming from industries. For instance, between the university and the food industries. I had this experience as a director of industrial training of my university. Placing students on industrial is difficult. When we need our students to go to food industries, some industries refuse, they don't absorb them. And some virtually request that we should pay for students to go for industrial training. I've listened to this and I've heard about the triple helix loop. And I'm asking, what do we do going forward to ensure that truly we have practical PPP so that the university benefit, the industry benefit, and the university industry and which one? And the government also benefit. Because we need that. In the university now, I have a feeling that we should declare state of emergency on our laboratories. We don't have equipment to carry out research, especially at the postgraduate level. So what do we do going forward?
Thank you very much. Fortunately, it doesn't seem, okay, the First Lady has her hand up, and I will be in trouble if I fail to recognize her. So, Bernard, please, I know I'm going to serve a lot of punishment after now, but please, it's worth it.
Thank you very much. It was a second thought. I just thought, let me just keep quiet so that I don't. I just want to ask a question concerning this multiplicity of what? Levies, now the levies are paying you. I'm talking about, we have NAFDAC, we have SON, and we have NESRIA. And Oshio. Yeah. From the little I know, whilst I was still at, well, I was lucky to have worked with FDA of the US. And I've been in FDA when FDA was FDA before it got the agency and became NAFDAC. I was chairman for, what do you call that one? That we used to go to Geneva for. What's in the column? Codex. And it was still on standards, Abby. Why will food and drugs, that's what it's called in the US, not stay as food and drugs, regulate everything? Why must Standards Organization of Nigeria not stand with standards of whatever else and leave everything called food and drugs to food and drugs? That is my big question. Is there any way we can let the government know that till today, the food and drugs?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I invite Dr. Eva to respond to that because I think she's one of the first the most appropriate person that can speak on this. I just want to respond to Professor Igbabu's comment. I don't know if she was around when the forum held. The question about the IT matter was extensively discussed. Maybe you were not around at the time, but in any case, the kind of partnership that I'm thinking we can rise from here to foster is to begin the discussion. It's not that it's a long-term contractual matter, but the discussion must start from here. The experience we have seen elsewhere is that industry will have challenges and look for people to come and help resolve those challenges. But that's not been the case for the most part in our country. But Dr. Eva, you kindly come and respond. Why are we not having food and drugs together? And as you do that, I'm sure that my punishment will start with Mr. Bernard Siwoko. Okay. Our hands together for her, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ma, for that question. Very valid, but also a very difficult question to answer. So I'm going to attempt it. And so, like was said earlier, regulatory agencies of government have their respective mandates. And the mandates are laws, right? So for example, for NAFDAC, we have the NAFDAC Cap N1, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, that has stipulated everything that NAFDAC is mandated to do. Standards Organization of Nigeria also have their own mandates, which is also an act. The same with all the others, the FCCPC, the NESRIA. And so we realize that there are overlaps. And unfortunately, it's the industries that we regulate that have to bear the brunt of what we call maybe sometimes over-regulation, because each of the agencies has their mandates. And so how we have attempted to address this is through going into MOUs with each other. NAFDAC has an MOU with the FCCPC. We are currently drafting an MOU with the SON, but of course we have realized that it's good to have it as a tripartite. So now what does the MOU do? It's just giving us ways of working. We are not, nobody is going to relegate their mandates, but because we know that at the end of the day, we are all agencies of government, government has one objective, and we all need to work together and collaborate to ensure, to try to attempt to meet those objectives. So what do? We go into MOUs. And so this is just basically where we are at now. And the solution will come when the acts are amended. And you know that that is a process on its own. So we are in this situation where we have to put in place a stopgap measure while we're waiting for that to happen. I hope I have attempted that
Absolutely.
question
Absolutely.
to your satisfaction.
Please put your hands together.
Thank you, Ma.
Put your hands together for Eva Edwards. I think the way forward for me is NIFST should begin to put a deliberate plan. I first of all want to commend the organizers because in recent times it's the first time we are having government, industry, academia sitting together to talk about the possibility of partnership. So it's a very good starting point. And now that we have a very competent group that are helping us to, have the next generation food science trainees and the NIFST that performs better, I think it won't be out of place for us to deliberately have a PPE subcommittee that can help in networking so that we can speak between industry, government, and the academia in solving the problems that pertain our public. Having said that, because of time, if you have questions and further discussions, can you please engage our very able panelists, and for me to just say thank you very much for the time that you have spent with us. Thank you, Bernard, as well, for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite the panelists to please step up on the stairs, leading to the podium and take the group photograph. While that is going on, I will want to announce specially that the technical session starts now. Group 1 will sit facing me. Location 2 will be facing the main door. Location 3 is the gallery. We are going to run the technical session till 2:30 when we shall be having lunch. For the first location facing me, Group 1 and 4. For the second location facing the main entrance door, Group 2 and 5. The third location at the gallery, Group 3 and 6 will be there. Now I want to also announce, for each of these technical sessions, we have the following people to man and also moderate the activity. So we have the chairperson as well as the judges. For the first location facing me, we have the chairperson as Professor Badao Amidu from UNIMED. And the other members that will judge are Professor Mutiat Balogun from Unilorin and Dr. Ohuoba Alice N. from Southeast Chapter, NRCRI, Umudike. They will be the judges for that first location. The second location facing the main entrance door and facing the projector screen. The chair will be Professor Joy A.K. Geoffrey from River State University of Science and Technology. The judges and members will be Dr. Adebayo Yeto from Yaba Tech and Dr. Joseph Onwero from Belsu. They will be the one facing the screen there. And going to the gallery, the chair for the session will be Professor Shubola Fasoyiro from More Plantation Ibadan. And the judges will be Dr. Suleiman Kosoko from FIRO and Dr. Modupeola Oguntoye from UI. Please, let's quickly move to our various locations and be part of the presentations because the technical session starts now. Please, let's move quickly. Let's move quickly. Time is not our friend. Location 1, location 2, location 3, up. Location 1, location 2, location 3, up. Let's quickly move and let all the presenters ensure that everything, their presentation is on the laptop to be used. Location 1, location 2, location 3. Location 1, group 1 and 4. Location 6. Please ensure you are there for the presentation and let us start the technical session. Please, can we have the chair for this session? Professor Badao Amidu, please, where are you? Professor Badao Amidu. Professor Mutiat Balogun. Dr. Ohoba Alice, where are you, please? Okay. Sorry. I don't even look front. Professor Babarinde, are you around? Of Loud Tech. Professor Babarinde, we need your attention here quickly, please, for location 1. Please, all the presenters for group 1 and 4, are we here? Please indicate. Okay, please move this way, move this way. Move this way, to this side, please. Professor Mutiat Balogun.